I watched, thrones were set up, and the Ancient of Days took his place. His clothes were of the purest white, as white as snow, and the hair of his head was like the finest wool. His throne was a blazing fire, with wheels that burned like the sun, and streams of fire flowed out from all around him. Countless thousands of heavenly beings were there to serve him. Millions stood by to attend him. The time of judgment began, and the books were opened. And I saw what looked like the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven. He approached the Ancient of Days and was ushered into his presence. And he was crowned king and given authority, honor, power, and glory, so that all people of every nation and race would serve him. His dominion will last forever, for his kingdom is eternal and will never be destroyed. Now please turn to hymn number 564. We'll sing Just a Closer Walk with Thee.
May your continual mercy, O Lord, cleanse and defend your church, and because without you we cannot endure in safety, may we ever be governed by your bounty. Through our Lord Jesus Christ, your Son, who lives and reigns with you in the unity of the Holy Spirit, God, world without end. Amen.
Okay, we'll read from the book of Daniel, the first part of chapter 7. So hear the word of the Lord. In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head upon his bed. Then he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matters. Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of the heaven strove upon the great sea. And four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse from one another. The first was like a lion, and had eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth, and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. And behold, another beast, a second, like to a bear, and it raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, Arise, devour much flesh. After this I beheld, and lo, another, like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of man, and a mouth speaking great things. I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. A fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The judgment was set, and the books were opened. I beheld then, because of the voice of the great words which the horn spake, I beheld even till the beast was slain, and his body destroyed, and given to the burning flame. As concerning the rest of the beasts, they had their dominion taken away, yet their lives were prolonged for a season and time. I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven, and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. And there was given him dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all people, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion which shall not pass away, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Okay, got a great song, which we actually sang a few weeks ago, maybe a month and a half ago, and called Ancient of Days. And as you heard in the scripture, it refers to this. And I remember last time we sang it, some of you were up dancing in the aisles, and so I thought, boy, they really like that. Let's do it again. So if you feel like dancing again, no problem. Blessing and honor Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. God is so good. God is so good. God is so good. He's so good to me. Amen. Okay, now we'll finish reading Daniel chapter 7. So we're going to pick it up with verse 15. Read to the end of the chapter. So hear the word of the Lord. Daniel was grieved. I, Daniel, was grieved in my spirit, in the midst of my body, and the visions of my head troubled me. I came near unto one of them that stood by and asked him the truth of all this. So he told me and made me know the interpretation of the things. These great beasts, which are four kings, which shall arise out of the earth. But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever. Then I would know the truth of the fourth beast, which was diverse from all the others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron, and his nails of brass, which devoured, brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with his feet. And of the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up, and before whom 3 fell, even of that horn that had eyes, and a mouth that spake very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows, beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints, and prevailed against them, until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High. And the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. Thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down, and break it in pieces. And the 10 horns out of his kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise. And another shall rise after them, and shall be diverse from the first. And he shall subdue 3 kings. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws. And they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time. But the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion, to consume and to destroy it unto the end. And the kingdom and dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him. Hitherto is the end of the matter. As for me, Daniel, my cogitations much troubled me, and my countenance changed in me. But I kept the matter in my heart. This is the word of the Lord for the people of the Lord. Thanks be to God. So we're talking about what on earth is about to happen, for heaven's sake. This is the 3rd installment of this series. And we've been asking questions like, what in the world is going on today? What is going to happen next? How and when will the world end? And what should we do? Well, we have arrived at the 70th week of Daniel, which is here on this chart, 70th week of Daniel. A couple weeks ago, we looked at this long timeline here of world history. And right here now, which is expanded here for this 70th week of Daniel. Okay, that's where we are. It is the final week, or actually 7-year period, that is remaining in time, or yet to come, based on the prophecy about the future that was delivered to Daniel by the angel Gabriel in response to his prayer that we heard last week. And as we learned last week, the first 69 weeks, or 483 years, were completed and fulfilled when Jesus was rejected as king of Jerusalem and killed. Said the Messiah was cut off. And God then set Daniel's people aside, the Jews. They didn't accept him. And he grafted in the Gentiles, the wild olive branch, who became the church for the next 2,000 years. And so here we are, watching and waiting for that final week, the final 7 years to commence, so that we can count down the final days until the Lord Jesus returns in the clouds on the day of Christ. Now we talked about the treaty with Israel that will allow the Jews to rebuild their temple. And when that happens, we can start the clock and the countdown through those final 7 years. And halfway through that time, in the midst of the week, basically right here, the leader who made the treaty will break it. He'll break the treaty, and he'll desolate the temple. And the Jews then will realize that this is not the Messiah. And Christians will know that he is the Antichrist, or the man of sin. Now, first of all, the day of Christ is the day when Christ returns, when he comes in the clouds. And most modern Bible translations call this the day of the Lord. But I think that's incorrect. See, the King James Bible appears to be right with this. It distinguishes between the day of Christ and the day of the Lord. The day of the Lord refers to Christ's 1,000-year millennial reign here on earth. That's the day of the Lord, when he sets up his kingdom for 1,000 years. The day of Christ must come first, along with many other events that we'll discuss as we work our way through these prophecies. Now, the Apostle Paul says in 2 Thessalonians 2, verse 3, that day, the day of Christ, cannot come until two things happen. Number one, a falling away. And two, the man of sin be revealed. And I believe that during these first 3.5 years of that final week, the final 7 days, 7 years, there will be a great falling away. People will stop serving God, by the millions perhaps. And we'll get into that later, probably next time, which will be in a couple of weeks. But halfway through this 7-year time period, the man of sin is going to desolate the temple, it says. So let's look at something from Daniel chapter 8, verse 10, where it's talking about the little horn that we just heard about, Antichrist, that we read about in Daniel 7 there. It says, and it waxed great, even to the host of heaven, And it cast down some of the host and of the stars to the ground, and stamped upon them. Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host. And by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. Well, this is talking about breaking the treaty by stopping the daily sacrifices that the Jews will be performing in the temple. And he'll commandeer and take over the temple. And here is where he will desolate the temple, it says. Perhaps by some kind of unclean sacrifice or erecting an idol to himself or some such thing. But verse 13 in chapter 8 says, Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake, How long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice, and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden under foot? And he said unto me, Unto 2,300 days. Well, there's a clue. 2,300 days. That's almost 6.5 years. And then shall the sanctuary be cleansed, says the angel. So, this desolation will happen halfway through, and it will last 2,300 days. So that's right here. It's where this red arrow goes through here. All right? The temple will be desolate 2,300 days, and then it will be cleansed. Now, when Jesus came to Jerusalem at the beginning of his ministry, he went to the temple and cleaned it out, remember? And then at the end of his ministry, he came back and cleaned it out again. Twice, really, he went in with a whip and drove the money changers out of the temple. And he's going to come and do that again. When Jesus returns, he will go and cleanse the temple, and the desolation will stop. I want to go back now to Daniel chapter 7 that we read and pick up another prophecy here. Back to verse 2. Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of heaven strove upon the great sea. Well, most Bible scholars think that this great sea represents the sea of humanity. Okay? In fact, that's where the term comes from. And I see no reason to disagree. So the four winds will strive to see who will be in control of humanity. Verse 3 says, And four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse from one another. The first was like a lion, and had eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth, and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. Well, think about this. At the end of time, which is probably now or very soon, there will be four world kingdoms or empires that come up. The first one is a lion with eagle's wings. That is very likely an alliance between England and America, the UK and the USA. Because England's symbol has historically been a lion, and usually a standing lion, as it refers to. And America's symbol has traditionally been an eagle. And it says that the eagle's wings were plucked, and the lion stood up as a man. So it says that USA will be plucked. Well, the United States, could lose our financial dominance in this world very soon. We don't know what's going to happen, but we're so deep in debt now that our economy could crash at any time, making our Federal Reserve notes become worthless. They're based on nothing anyway but debt. You know, we're $22 trillion in debt. Can't last forever. And we would be ripe for the bucking. That's a possibility there. And behold, another beast, it says, a second like to a bear. And it raised up itself on one side. And it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, Arise, devour much flesh. Well, the second beast is likely Russia, the bear. Their symbol has always been a bear. And the 3 ribs in its teeth could be 3 nearby countries that it devours, which is something that Russia the bear has been known for doing over the years, devouring its neighbors. And verse 6 then says, After this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. Well, this beast could be an alliance of Eastern nations, perhaps, like China, Japan, Korea, perhaps Indonesia or India. 4 such nations might get together and become a world power. Now, this is just a guess, but it certainly is possible. Verse 7 says, After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly. Well, this 4th beast here is critical. It is not described like the others. It's described as looking not like an animal, just that it is a dreadful, terrible, exceedingly strong beast. It says it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it. And it had 10 horns. This one is different from anything else. But what is this 4th beast with iron teeth that stamps on everything? Well, as we've talked about before, it could be a Muslim alliance in the end of time, getting together now. You know, we talked about the Ottoman Empire earlier, which was dismantled after World War I, following 1,200 years of domination in that region. Well, they've been very angry about that, and they're attempting to reform right now through their caliphate. That's what the Nation of Islam is all about. Now, the beast, it says, has 10 horns. So it could be an alliance of 10 Muslim nations all around and near Israel. There's at least 10 of them there. Verse 8 says, I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn. Well, this little horn is key. It is Antichrist. And the little horn will be mentioned again and again in upcoming passages too. He may be the ruler of one of the Muslim nations. We'll see. Now, the little horn before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of man, and the mouth speaking great things. I beheld till the thrones were cast down. So it sounds like this little horn leader will conquer or take over 3 other countries in the alliance and rise to power. Then it says, And the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was as white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. Well, this, of course, is speaking about God himself, the Ancient of Days. A fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The judgment was set, and the books were opened. 10,000 times 10,000. That's 100 million. And it's a phrase and a number that will come up again. For example, in Revelation chapter 5, it says, "Then I looked and heard the voice of many angels, numbering thousands upon thousands, and 10,000 times 10,000. And this probably refers to 100 million people who will be martyred, very likely by beheading, as it says a couple of times. We'll get into that later when we look further into Revelation. So back to Daniel 7, where it says, 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The judgment was set, and the books were opened. Well, this is the final judgment, which we also read about in Revelation 20. The books will be opened, and the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books, according to their works, it says. So think about this. Everything that you said, that you've done, everything that you thought will be brought up again in front of everybody and judged. Kind of a scary thought, huh? Verse 11. I beheld then because of the voice of the great words which the horn spake. And I beheld even till the beast was slain, and his body destroyed, and given to the burning flame. As concerning the rest of the beasts, they had their dominion taken away, yet their lives were prolonged for a season and time. I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven. Coming in the clouds. We've heard that one before. Remember in our study of 1 Thessalonians back during Advent. And we'll hear it again several more times too. It says, the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven and came to the Ancient of Days. And they brought him near before him. And there was given him dominion and glory and the kingdom, that all people, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion which shall not pass away, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed. Daniel is intrigued, and so he asks, tell me more about this fourth beast. And he says, I, Daniel, was grieved in my spirit, in the midst of my body, and the visions of my head troubled me. I came near unto one of them that stood by, and asked him the truth of all this. So he told me, and made me know the interpretation of the things. These great beasts, which are four kings, which shall arise out of the earth. But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom, and possess the kingdom forever and ever and ever. So the fourth beast, the fourth king, the Antichrist, a.k.a. also known as the little horn, comes and sets up his kingdom. Then the Lord will come and set up his kingdom. Sounds simple. But when we read further, we find that there's a gap here in between. Okay? I've read through this part of Daniel several times, and I've always wondered, what on earth is going on here? You know, and when I read through this book, what on earth is about to happen, that I finally realized that Daniel is telling the same story 4 times, adding new details each time. And Dr. Kent Hovind says it's kind of like doing a paint job, adding coat after coat of paint to give it depth and dimension. So Daniel 7 seems to be giving us 4 coats of paint, 4 passes over the same events, adding new details each time. Verse 19 says, "Then I would know the truth of the 4th beast, which was diverse from all the others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron and his nails of brass, which devoured, brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with his feet. And of the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up, and before whom 3 fell, even of that horn that had eyes, and a mouth that spake very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows, I beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints, and prevailed against them." Oh, wait a minute. I thought the Lord sets up his kingdom. Well, he will, after this beast prevails against the saints. And this is one strong clue that indicates we'll be here during the tribulation time. And there are more indications to come. Verse 22 says, "Until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High, and the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom." Well, earlier in verses 15 through 18, we heard about the 4th beast, and the saints possessed the kingdom. Here we have the 4th beast, and the saints possess the kingdom. After they get beat up, he prevails against them. Now we will read the same story again, another coat of paint, starting with verse 23. "Thus he said, the 4th beast shall be the 4th kingdom upon earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down and break it in pieces. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall arise after them, and he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings, and he shall speak great words against the Most High, and he shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws." Change times and laws. I think the Muslims would change time to their calendar once they took control. And their Sharia law is certainly different than most countries' law. They want to set that up everywhere, they keep saying. "And they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time." Well, we have a reference here to 3.5 years that we talked about earlier, and that we hear about in Revelation 2. Time, times, and the dividing of time, it says. So time would be a year. Times is another 2 years. And the dividing of time would be another half year. Be 3.5 years. So the saints will be given into his hand and persecuted for 3.5 years. I'm pretty sure is what it's saying. Verse 26. "But the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion, to consume and to destroy it unto the end." So Antichrist has his plans. He's going to beat up the saints. But God will come and set up his kingdom anyway. So we will have the victory in the end, so don't worry about that, amen? Verse 27 says, "And the kingdom and dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him. The kingdom will be given to the saints by the Most High. That's another coat of paint, with a little more emphasis to make sure we get the story. And verse 28 finally says, "Hitherto is the end of the matter. As for me, Daniel, my cogitations much troubled me, and my countenance changed in me, but I kept the matter in my heart." So Daniel chapter 7 is telling us that there will come a time when these four beasts will raise up and fight. One of them will rise to prominence, very possibly the Muslim Empire. They will take control, persecute the saints. Then God will come and set up his kingdom. And it seems to tie back to Daniel chapter 2, where there are 10 kings. 10 toes on the feet of iron and clay that will not mix. And during the time of these kings, the stone cut out of the mountain without hands will come and smite the image on the feet and crumble the whole thing. Jesus Christ. The stone will grow to become a great mountain, and that's the kingdom of God. It's the same story told over and over again in symbolism. So there will be a world empire that will make a treaty, most likely with Israel. But they will break that treaty and desolate the temple. During the time of desolation and before, many will fall away from the faith. Paul says in 2 Thessalonians that the day of Christ cannot come until two things happen. There is a great falling away, and the man of sin is revealed. Jesus asked a question in Luke chapter 18, verse 8, which was never answered. He asked, "When the Son of Man comes, shall he find faith on the earth?" We'll talk more about that next time. Amen. Next message will be called Falling Away, and that will be in 2 weeks. So I hope you enjoy your time with Pastor Rick next week. And what we're going to do now is sing a closing hymn. I'll get ready to go as we're doing that. I think you'll like this one. It's called "On Higher Ground." Please stand.